Hello, it's Thursday, March 12th, 2025 at 5:08 p.m. We're here in the Austin Transit Partnership Office Boardroom at 203 Colorado Street, Austin, Texas, 78701, for the regular meeting of the Project Connect Community Advisory Committee. I'm going to take roll call. Chair Azar is not here. He's on the bus trying to get here. So I'm Susan Summers. I'm the vice chair. I'm present. Conducting this meeting. Secretary Garza?
Present.
Thank you. Member Gorse?
Present.
Crossley?
Here.
Member Brooks?
Here.
Member Barry?
Here.
Member Handel? Member Sweets? Or is it Suits? Yeah, I think it's misspelled in this.
No, Suits.
Awesome, thank you. And it's McGee? Is that McGee? Okay. Yes.
Here.
Member Gonzalez? Great. Thank you, everyone. So we do have quorum and with those present in attendance. That takes us to item 2, which is our land acknowledgement. Ms. Berry, do you want to lead us through that?
Yes.
Thank you.
To ground yourself before starting this meeting, it's important to talk about the history of this region. Long before it came to be known as Waterloo or Austin, this region has drawn people here for thousands of years, in part because of our waterways and the wealth of natural resources. This region has been home to the Tonkawa, the Coahuilteca, as well as the Comanche, the Panapache, Sana, Humanos, and many others I may not have named, who were also caretakers of this land. I highlight this history because Native and Indigenous peoples are routinely erased from the conversation, referred to as having disappeared or having been conquered. Native and Indigenous peoples are still here and present in what we now call Austin. The pursuit of white land ownership, profit, and so-called progress has harmed Black, Indigenous, and people of color in this city. The effects of the legacy of settler colonialism, the theft of land, slavery, and genocide are still felt and present with us today. It's vital to keep this history in mind as you do this important work, and to make a commitment to stop perpetuating the cycle of violence against Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to item 3, which is public comment. Do we have any public comment signed up? Or if anyone is here to give public comment? Including online. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to item 4, which is approval of the previous February 12th, 2026 CAC meeting minutes. Those have been shared with the group. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion. Barry.
A motion approval of the minutes that from council member. I'm upgrading you.
No, thank you.
From Ms. Berry. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'm going to take it from Mr. Handel. Okay, so there we have, that's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, amendments, corrections?
I have one. My last name is misspelled with an S at the end. It needs to be a Z, so if we can correct that. I assume that can be a text edit, but.
Yes, I believe so. Can we make sure that that's reflected in the record? Upgraded spelling, corrected spelling. Okay. Any other changes, amendments, corrections? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on that. All those in approval of approving the minutes with the correction of the spelling of Mr. Gonzalez's name, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Does appear to be unanimous of those present. Thank you. All right. I'm going to make an executive decision to go ahead and go to our discussion items. The service change, we can do that. Okay, so to be clear, folks, if you're looking at our agenda, item 5 was our working group appointments. That doesn't require staff to be here, and we have staff who are waiting to give us presentations. I also would like if Chair Azar can be here for that as well. So we're going to move to our discussion items, and we're going to take those a little out of order as well. We're going to go to 6B, which is the CAP Metro June 2026 service changes.
Hi, good evening. Would you guys like me to share my screen to present the service change, or would somebody else like to?
Whichever is easier for you. I have them up so we can share it, but if it's easier for you to run through it, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen. Let me see if I can do that real quick. Actually, honest, do you mind if you go ahead and share?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Giannis. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us at CAC today. I'm excited to be here to discuss the service change. I'm Emma Martinez with the Planning Department. We also have some other staff here available for questions. And today I'll be presenting the proposed 2026 service changes, which represents the first major service change that Cap Metro would deliver as part of our board-approved Transit Plan 2035. And it represents more of a Project Connect program of projects coming to life on the ground. So pretty exciting. Um, Starting with a brief overview of our service change process, which is what you're looking at on the screen right now. Our service changes provide Cap Metro an opportunity to adjust its services to meet the needs of customers and efficiently use our resources. And the process is guided by our board approved service standards and
Emma?
guidelines where we identify. Yes.
Sorry, they're asking for you to slow down for the interpretation a little bit, please.
Okay. Yes, I will slow down. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, so this process is guided by our board approved service standards and guidelines, where we identify ways to improve service. We develop a proposal and engage with the public and our regional partners throughout. And these service changes occur up to 3 times a year, typically in January, June, and August to align with local school and university calendars. In the interim months between service change implementations, Cap Metro continuously seeks and invites year-round feedback from the community. And on a daily basis, we're monitoring service, looking at trends and customer care reports, and collaborating with our stakeholders and partners to guide future service change recommendations. On the next slide, the proposed June 2026 service changes focus on enhancing connectivity for the community and implementing major components of both Project Connect and Transit Plan 2035. Building on the February 2025 launch of Rapid 800 and 837 with initial service, this change proposes to bring these lines to their full 10-minute peak frequencies upon completion of the Goodnight Ranch and Expo Center Park and Rides and successful testing this spring. Additionally, several of the nearby fixed route bus services are proposed to be realigned to best utilize and support those new facilities and the full rapid service. Though the route extensions through the route extensions into the park and ride, the Cap Metro access boundary will also expand in those respective areas, and no areas will have reduced Cap Metro access service. And so today I'll walk through the proposed changes, the Title VI analysis, as well as the community engagement efforts. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, and we'll start talking about full service on these Cap Metro rapid lines. So these rapid lines are the result of a long-term planning and engagement process within the Project Connect system plan. And as a priority investment under Project Connect, these rapid lines were introduced in February 2025 as new transit connections for the community. As a refresher, Rapid 800 Pleasant Valley provides service from Berkman Mueller to Goodnight Ranch in Southeast Austin, connecting customers to destinations such as Mueller, ACC Eastview, Dove Springs, and more. It also includes connections to the Future Network with transfers to the upcoming light rail and future Green Line commuter rail. Rapid 837 Expo Center connects customers to medical, university, residential, and commercial areas, as well as to downtown at the Republic Square Transit Hub. And at Republic Square, it connects with a variety of CAP Metro routes, including our high frequency network and the existing Rapid 801 and 803. Rapid 837 also connects to the existing Red Line at Rush Square downtown station and the upcoming light rail, giving customers even more transit options to move throughout the city. And these routes provide service on a select number of stops with faster travel times when compared to regular bus service, and provide access to the community in an area growing with new development and redevelopment. And since starting these new lines last year, a wide variety of staff and departments have worked really diligently to continue to strengthen these lines each day for current riders and all other customers discovering it. On the next slide, for instance, CAP Metro has progressed in completing about 80 newly designed rapid stations with lighting, signage, and rider amenities. We've advanced construction of both park and ride facilities, as you can see in some of those images on the screen. We've further strengthened our electrification infrastructure and added more zero-emission vehicles to the lines. So this service change represents a major milestone, bringing the rapid lines to their full 10-minute peak frequencies with additional zero-emission vehicles to the lines and completion of the park and rides. Next slide. We know these connections are really important to the community, and so we're going to dive into a little bit more detail with each of the changes, Goodnight Ranch and Expo Center. So with the opening of the new Goodnight Ranch Park and Ride just to the west of Slaughter Lane and Vertex Boulevard, CAP Metro proposes to realign nearby routes to establish the facility as a key transit hub in Southeast Austin. The Park and Ride will serve as the new terminus for Rapid 800 Pleasant Valley, Local Route 318 Westgate Slaughter, and Frequent Route 333 William Cannon. Next slide. As a result, routes 318 and 333 will no longer operate along portions of Thaxton Road, Alum Rock Drive, and Panadero Drive. Customers along this segment can connect to services via nearby stops on Salt Springs Drive or Vertex Boulevard, which is a short distance to the west. And these changes will improve transfer opportunities, enhance the experience for customers and operators, and better align the service with community feedback. Moving along to the Expo Center Park and Ride. The upcoming Expo Center Park and Ride will serve as a major connection point for Northeast Austin near Loyola and Decker, bringing several routes and on-demand pickup service together. And specifically, Rapid 837 Expo Center, Frequent Route 337 Koenig Colony Park, Local Route 18 MLK, and Local Route 233 Decker Daffin. All of those will extend into and terminate at the Park and Ride. Apologies for some background noise. Lots of dogs. CAP Metro is proposing to realign nearby fixed route bus services so that the facility functions as both a transit hub and a key link for riders traveling throughout the region, while maintaining the route coverage in surrounding neighborhoods. Service levels in the area are being increased or maintained, and the changes have been carefully reviewed to ensure continued access and frequency for riders. On the next slide, Route 18 MLK will extend from MLK and Springdale to communities along Johnny Morris, Loyola, Community First, and into the Park and Ride, which will replace Route 237 Northeast Feeder, as well as the southern portion of Route 339 Tuscany, with more frequent coverage along all existing roads. And this change was proposed after we heard from the community about the need for more direct and frequent service. The newly extended Route 18 to Community First, where customers who previously had 60-minute service will now have a 30-minute service direct into downtown Austin. On the next slide, as a result, Route 339 will shorten to terminate at the Springdale Shopping Center and combine with existing Route 323 Anderson to create an improved crosstown connection in Northeast Austin. And it will operate every 30 minutes, which will be a significant improvement for current 339 customers who have hourly coverage. And this new combination route will also provide connections from the Springdale Shopping Center to 3 different transit centers, North Cross, Norwood, and North Lamar Transit Center. Moving along to the next slide, with Pickup Decker and Rapid 37 providing similar coverage, Route 233 will be modified to operate only east of Johnny Morris Road, creating a neighborhood clockwise circulator with increased frequency. And Cap Metro is implementing this resource neutral frequency change to see if it can help strengthen ridership along the route, which has declined since the introduction of Pickup Decker. Cap Metro will continue to closely monitor ridership and adjust service over time to better align resources with demand alongside ongoing community engagement. And lastly, on the next slide, Route 5 Woodrow East 12th will turn around via Technis Center instead of transitioning into a different route. Currently, it's interlined with routes 237 and 339. So just the turnaround at the end is going to change. Overall, all impacted routes will have improved connections, transfers, and either maintained or increased service levels. On the next slide, with Rapid 837 achieving full 10-minute frequency, Route 20 Manor Road Riverside will be split into 2 separate routes at the University of Texas. And the southern portion along Riverside Drive to the airport would remain a high frequency route, and the northern portion along Manor Road to Colony Park will become Route 320, an underlying local route providing coverage with more stops, while Rapid 837 provides speed with fewer stops. And this mirrors our model with routes 1 and 3, which operate as underlying local routes for Rapid 801 and 803, providing customers a choice between coverage or speed depending on their needs. So that covers the changes associated with our park and rides and rapid service. And now I'm going to go through just some proposed minor schedule adjustments. So lastly, to improve on-time performance, reliability, and better serve customers, select routes may receive minor adjustments to their schedules or bus stop locations. And this includes typical summer transitions on UT shuttle routes and school trip services, as well as timing updates on routes affected by evolving traffic conditions and regional construction. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the Title VI analysis that was conducted, since these recommendations constitute a major service change, as it increases more than 25% of the miles and hours on Rapid 800 and 837, and proposes realignment and frequency changes to adjacent routes. And so staff conducted a Title VI service equity analysis using census data to make sure that the minority and low-income populations are receiving their share of the benefits of this large increase in service. So on the next slide, you can see that the analysis showed there are no disparate impacts or disproportionate burden findings, meaning that the change does not disproportionately affect minority or low-income populations. When we launch these services, the investment will primarily benefit customers and those who frequent the East Austin community. And there was a significant engagement effort for this process. So the proposed service change builds upon the extensive outreach and feedback that we've gathered during the voter approved Project Connect System Plan and the board approved Transit Plan 2035. And we've refined those community informed concepts into the specific proposals that you're seeing today. We started a robust community engagement phase on February 4th to keep community members and customers informed and gather input to guide the decision-making process. Some of our recent key outreach efforts include in-person and virtual public meetings, block walking, at-stop signage, and a public comment box on our website. And public input is considered and reviewed throughout our engagement process leading up to the final recommendations. The board will consider approving the service change on Monday, March 23rd at the regularly scheduled board meeting. And then if approved, the finalized changes will be communicated through promotional materials in the spring. And so that concludes my presentation on the June 2026 service changes. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez, and my apologies all for being behind. I'll open it up for questions for folks who have questions or comments. Looking around the room first, and then if somebody is virtual, you can raise your hand or speak as well. Go ahead, Mr. Brooks.
Just point out that anytime they change a fixed route bus route, such as canceling it or rerouting it, they have to consider people who receive Metro Access paratransit service within 1 mile of the fixed bus route. So this required, all of these changes required making sure that nobody was going to be deprived of their Metro Access usage through the changes. So I give a round of applause for that additional factor.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Other folks with questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. First of all, just as an 800 rider, this is very exciting. So thank you for that. But I was also wondering if you could speak a little bit to how, especially at the end of the line, it like McKinney Falls State Park is like accessed through connections.
Yeah, I would have to double check on exactly how McKinney Falls Park is accessible through there. I know it's a little bit off of the route, but one of the things about the 800 Rapid line is that all of our stops are pretty spaced out in order to provide that rapid level service. And so we've received requests for infill stops before, and we are considering all of those as we work towards, possible infill stations in the future to make it more accessible for that area at the end of the 800. Because I know there are a few stops that people have asked for better access on the end of the 800. So that's something that we've heard and something that we're considering as we look at infill stations in the future.
Thank you.
Ms. Martinez, I have, oh, go ahead, Mr. Crossley, and then I'll jump into my questions. Please go ahead.
Okay, well, I actually was looking at the same thing as Liz was thinking about, and I think the closest the entrance to McKinney State Falls Park gets to the route is like 1.25 miles. So you could, depending on where the station is, that's as close as it'll get, I think. My question was the 10-minute frequency. Is that will happen soon and when the service changes go into effect, or will be phased in?
Yeah, the proposed 10-minute frequency is something that will go into effect when the service change is implemented, and it will be 10-minute frequency during peak periods and 15 in off-peak.
Okay, great.
Mr. Crossley, did you have any follow-ups?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Ms. Martinez, I was going to ask, I know we can see, the rapid goes along Loyola. Can you talk a bit about what is the service right now on Colony Loop Drive?
Colony Loop Drive is something that I believe is going to be preserved in correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence or Melissa, but I believe the Route 233 currently serves the Colony Loop where it goes up and goes to the community center there. And that is something that is going to currently stay, and the Route 233 changes that will just operate east of Johnny Morris. So it will have slightly improved frequency as well, about 40-minute frequency, I believe. And so, yeah, you can see that green square. It goes up and does that little loop into Colony Loop on the map. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. No, that's helpful. The other question I had was, I know we're talking about like the new park and rides, and I was wondering, does the agency collect data on park and ride usage as well? I know for boardings we're able to get that, but what kind of data do we have on park and rides?
Yeah, I can't speak to the exact findings, but I know that our data analysis team regularly goes out and counts how many cars are parked in the park and rides. So if that was your question about, how commuters are using the park and ride, we do have data on that, and that is something that we track, as well as obviously the ridership at those stations and how transit users are using the actual stations themselves.
That's really helpful. And the reason I'm wondering is, of course, these park and rides are new. So we, of course, are not going to have any data on them. We'll get them in the next few years. But I know this committee, as we're talking about park and rides for light rail as well, and bus, there's been a lot of conversation about how much they're being used in our community. Are we seeing a lot of changes post-COVID? So definitely would be interesting to see at some point what the data on these looks like, so we can sort of assess how the park and rides are working. Again, of course, these are much further out, so it's not like comparable to a 38th Street park and ride. But all that said, at least to give us an idea of what park and ride usage in our system currently looks like, it would be helpful.
Definitely, I can pass that along.
Thank you. Other folks with questions or comments? Go ahead, Ms. Summers.
Yeah, I guess my question is about the vehicle delivery and implementation. I know that challenges around the vehicles were, part of the reason why y'all did a partial rollout and have now doing this service change to get to the full frequency. I wondered if you could speak to sort of the vehicle procurement process, and are those vehicles will be in hand for June, or and also if you have a thought about what we've learned going forward with these zero emission vehicles and the process going forward. I think that I mean, the best environmental bus is a full bus. A lot of us on this committee have probably said that. Obviously, I do support the zero emission transition, but I also support getting service out on the ground to people as soon as possible. So curious about any comments, and also if the buses are here or are going to be here in June, I guess.
Yeah, so to my understanding, the biggest leap that we had to make to get these routes running with zero emission vehicles wasn't just the procurement of the vehicles themselves, but the charging infrastructure. And so that was a really big hurdle that took a long time for us to construct. And so that is what is really going to enable us to operate the vehicles that we had on hand, but just the routes are too long for us to operate with zero emission vehicles without having end of line charging. And so that was a big piece of it. And then also really ramping up the number of operators that we have to ensure that we have the personnel to operate. And so that was another big piece that we've really been increasing over time. I know that the zero emission vehicle testing is ongoing right now, and we're still smoothing things out to ensure that we can work towards a summer implementation with those zero emission vehicles.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and you're right. I knew that about the charging being a big sort of changes to the needs for charging from maybe what was anticipated at first being part of the situation there. I'm definitely curious, anything that y'all staff can learn and compile, because obviously Project Connect long-term contemplates more rapid lines, and in the vision, those are all, supposed to be zero emission vehicles. But if there's things that we can learn and adjust as we plan going forward for the future lines, any learning that staff can bring to that process will be really valued as we hopefully do more of these.
Definitely. Thank you.
Other folks with questions or comments? Ms. Martinez, sorry, one just last one on my end. I think you had mentioned that with the Decker pickup, there's been some essentially ridership on some of the regular routes has decreased a little. And I know it's going to be very hard to assess what that looks like how it's related. It could be other factors as well. Do we have a good understanding of what the pickup service what kind of impacts it might be having, not just in this area, but in other areas as well? And I know mostly the pickup is serving areas that don't have regular local bus routes that can serve that area.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak a little bit to the Decker area specifically. I know that a lot of users on Route 233 have transitioned over to pickup service because right now the fixed route service provides 60-minute level service, whereas pickup is, door to door, is more on demand. And so that route specifically has been pretty impacted. And then with that frequency increase and just operating at more as a neighborhood circulator, we're going to see if that helps the ridership grow on the fixed route, if it's still serving its purpose, and then continue to monitor to see if that route is something that is going to be sustainable long term for that community. In terms of the pickup impacts at other zones, I don't want to speak to that without looking at the data for you, but I know that we want it to work well with the fixed route system. So pickup can be something that helps people get to and from the fixed route, and also fixed route can alleviate some of the demand on maybe like an overperforming pickup zone as well. And so I can get back to you if you need more data on pickup performance and some of the routes associated with it in other zones, but that's my general response.
I appreciate that. No, I was honestly just curious because I hadn't seen sort of the cross data between the fixed route and the pickup. So this is kind of interesting and new to me. In some ways, it makes sense with a route that doesn't have a lot of frequency. We could see some shift. So it's interesting definitely to see how the pickup is being used, which of course, again, was a big part of the Project Connect work to have those circulators along with the other work that Cap Metro had already been doing. One question I'll just ask on behalf of, we had a question from the community, which I can ask, which is if somebody wants to contact the Cap Metro and is working on procurement or something, what is the best contact to reach out to? And that can be anybody from the Cap Metro side who can hopefully help answer that, or even just put a email address in the chat. Just want to make sure that's addressed.
I can help. Oh, hi, I can help share that information to our procurement team, and I can drop the information in the chat.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. If we don't have other questions, we'll move on to the next item. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. This takes us to our service standard guidelines item. I know this has been a sort of a long time in the work, and Cap Metro staff had been working feverishly on the 2035 plan and several other initiatives. So I thank them for being here today. We'll start with the presentation, but then I know folks might have some questions looking at transit stop amenities.
Thank you. And I am also going to be presenting on transit stop amenities and our service standards and guidelines. So I'll let Giannis get the presentation set up.
Hopefully folks can see that and you can get started whenever is best for you.
Oh, I apologize. Let me see if I can. I don't see it on my screen, but I have the PowerPoint, so I'm happy to go off of that if needed.
Give us a moment. We're just pulling it up again.
No worries.
And please let us know if it becomes visible.
If you guys can see it, I can work off of my PowerPoint. Oh, it looks like I can see it now.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Well, today I'm going to be sharing an overview of the new Transit Stop Amenity Visualizer, as well as a high-level overview of our current service standards and guidelines, and a little bit about how we built a dashboard to display our amenities. And I'm also going to touch on some of the maintenance aspects of our amenities as well. So Giannis, it might be delayed, but if you can go to slide 3. I'll talk a little bit about our stop and station types. All right. So as part of our existing service standards and guidelines, Cap Metro uses stop types to categorize transit stops and stations based on their amenities and characteristics. And each stop, depending on ridership, is assigned a stop level, which provides standards for amenities and helps us to improve the customer experience. Stops with 0 to 14 riders are classified as a level 1 stop, and poles with signage are standard at those stops. For stops with moderate ridership between 15 to 59 riders, we classify those as level 2, where benches and waste receptacles are standard. And then at level 3, our highest ridership tier with more than 50 riders, our standards dictate benches, waste receptacles, and shelters. And there are some other amenities that are listed as well, but those are the ones that we hear the most about and what I've included for right now. And one thing to note is that we currently have more waste receptacles than we can feasibly maintain. And so the standards for waste receptacles are something that we'd like to work on updating. And we've been working very closely with our facilities team to develop a more dynamic standard that meets both the needs of our community members as well as our maintenance team. All of our standards are something that we work really hard to meet, but they are also context sensitive in nature. For example, we may not have the physical space to install a shelter even where one is warranted, or we may need real-time info or lighting, but we don't have a good connection to the electrical grid or a space where solar power will work. Some amenity implementation may even require reconstruction of the concrete pad, which requires further coordination with our partner jurisdictions, and it also can add additional cost and time. And these are all things that we consider as we implement amenities in line with our standards. So on the next slide, a little bit of an overview of the state of our stops. As of the January 2026 service change, we have 2,343 total stops in service. And at those stops, we have 904 stops with shelters, 1,484 stops with benches, and 1,593 stops with waste receptacles. It's really important.
Martinez, Ms. Martinez, can we ask you to slow down a little for our interpreters?
Yes, thank you for calling that out because I can't see the chat.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. It's really important for our community and for us to provide our riders with a safe and comfortable transit experience. And our team strives to put as many amenities out on the street as we can feasibly maintain. Cap Metro is third in the United States in terms of how many of our stops have shelters at them, and we are fourth when it comes to seating. We are actually first when it comes to real-time information, and those are stats from our American Bus Benchmarking Group. And we continue to innovate and improve our processes to ensure we try and maintain that ranking and provide high quality service at the front door of our service, as our CEO, Dottie Watkins, likes to call it. And then on the next slide, we often hear questions about the distribution of our amenities in relation to where our most vulnerable communities are located. So on the screen, you can see 3 maps of the amenities that we hear the most about. That's our benches, shelters, and waste receptacles. And the green dots on these maps represent stops that have those amenities. And the purple colored block groups underneath show higher concentrations of minority and low income populations. In each map, we can see that we have amenities throughout our entire system, but we have slightly more, mostly on the east side, in areas where we see more of the minority and low income percentages for each block group really start to tick up. And then if you'll go to the next slide, when we take a closer look at the data, it aligns with the distribution that we can see on the map here. In every category of these amenities, whether it's a shelter, a bench, or a trash can, we have more of them distributed in block groups where the minority population is above our service area average. And this makes a lot of sense because we prioritize implementation of amenities largely based on demographics that indicate a higher need for transit and transit amenities. These are things like minority population, folks with low income, as well as people with disabilities, youth and senior populations, people with limited English proficiency, and people without access to a car. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we know that the public is really interested in amenity data, especially the ability to see where all of these amenities are distributed through our service area on a map. And so our IT team has built out a tool that enables anyone to see what amenities are at a stop. And this helps not just the public, but it helps everyone in our agency as well who needs information about amenities. Some of our peers, such as Houston Metro and Valley Metro, also have a dashboard that displays stops, and they include amenity data. However, we haven't found one that is as focused on amenities, and that's something that can really set us apart as a transit agency. So moving along, everything in this dashboard is updated only 3 times per year in line with our service change process. And this helps us maintain consistent reporting over time and provides a snapshot in time. Our IT team has done a great job of bringing together several different data sources to make this dashboard work. And you can see some of the icons on the next slide. So this includes GTFS feed, which comes from our scheduling software and contains the list of all the in-service stops from the most recent service change. Our GIS mapping software, which contains the locations of all of our stops from the most recent service change and their stop IDs. And then Hexagon, which is where we manage our assets and have a list of what amenities are at each stop. And then on the next slide, there's a screenshot of the dashboard that is available on capmetro.org. And when you look at the tool, you'll see 3 main areas. front and center, there's an interactive map of all of our stops and a little call out showing one stop at a time. On the bottom row, you can see the totals for the number of stops and stops with benches, lighting, shelters, and waste receptacles. And then on the left, you've got filters that you can use, which will change the data that you see in other portions of the tool. It's also worth noting that we have some instructions on how to use the tool, as well as the date that the data was last updated, which, as a reminder, we plan to update the data on this dashboard with every service change that happens 3 times a year. So, as an example, on the next slide, let's say a member of the public asks to see a map of stops that have shelters, a request that we receive all the time. Using the dashboard, we can filter for stops that have shelters, and you'll see the map change as well as that bottom row of data. Maybe there's a specific stop of interest. You can go ahead and click on a stop icon and quickly see all of the amenities listed there. You can also click full stop details, and that will take you to our website where you can see the Google Street View, a Google map, and the scheduled service for that stop. Users can also go to the stops data table and see all of this information in a spreadsheet. You can download it if desired. The dashboard was finalized on March 1st, and so the data is now final. But we also launched it on February 23rd, knowing that it was important to get it out to our community. Just a note about the data verification process. And so now I'll chat a little bit about the ongoing bus stop maintenance process. Now you have seen how many amenities that our maintenance staff have to maintain, and how many stops. We have a team who services these stops each week, and it is no small task. You can see on this slide an example with a picture of our maintenance team cleaning up one of our stops, making sure everything is nice and tidy for our customers. And there is an ongoing maintenance strategy behind this process. Because bus stops, as I mentioned before, are really the first point of contact between Cap Metro and our riders. They really represent the most visible element of our transit system. And so the condition of that bus stop directly influences rider confidence, accessibility, and overall community trust. There's even data out there that says, the amenities placed and the condition of a bus stop can improve perceived wait time. And so the bus stop maintenance strategy that our facilities team has designed is really to strengthen safety and security at bus stops through being really proactive about hazard management. They're also optimizing the placement and removal of amenities like benches and litter containers based on ridership demand or misuse. Improving the efficiency and accountability of our maintenance team through data-driven deployment of staff and vehicles. They also work to engage our community partners, businesses, and riders as we maintain our stop conditions. And there are a lot of clear KPIs that help measure the bus stop maintenance throughout our system. And then you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah. Um, yeah, some of the strategy behind this, I've seen the dashboards that our maintenance team has been building so that they know exactly where hotspots in our system are so they can improve maintenance efficiency, and also optimize the placement of where everything is going in our system, as I mentioned before. On the next slide, our maintenance team has outlined some of the top work order categories that they work with on a daily basis. Some of the primary reasons that they may do maintenance at a stop is because there may have been an individual who is sleeping at the stop, or somebody may have left a significant amount of items there. So they work in tandem with our public safety ambassadors as well as our community intervention specialists, which often help to actually find people housing and resources. But that's one of the main ways that our maintenance team may need to go out and work on a stop. The second is just everyday trash, or at a higher level, if there is illegal dumping going on, they pressure wash our stops to make sure that they're clean. They often also deal with biohazards, graffiti. They may have to trim branches to ensure that the stop is both safe and feels safe. Signage, and then cutting the grass, and then unserviceable, which may mean that if a maintenance team member goes out to the stop and there is illegal activity occurring, they may wait to service that stop until they feel safe to do so. And so all of this on the next slide really culminates in some strategic pillars of just the day-to-day maintenance that is being done, and then the long-term vision that Jeffrey Hill, our VP of maintenance, really has for Cap Metro. So number one is safety and security. They are prioritizing this through hotspot mapping, as I mentioned a bit, looking at lighting, working in tandem with our transit police, PSAs, and community intervention specialists. And then also installing vehicle barriers at our stops to keep our customers safe, as well as to keep the stop from, being destroyed due to a vehicle crash. Number two is smart asset placement, particularly with trash cans and benches. Right now, they're reducing placement by 20% at low ridership or high vandalism stops, particularly for waste receptacles. And then reprioritizing retail and high volume stops where there isn't misuse of that particular amenity.
I'm so
Number
sorry.
three,
Could you,
graffiti.
could you repeat the first thing that you said under smart asset placement? I just,
Sure. Um, the first thing under smart asset placement. So our maintenance team is actively working on reducing the placement of trash cans by 20% at low ridership or high vandalism stops. And then reprioritizing high volume stops and where the assets aren't being misused with more community trash and the like. Um, and then number three, graffiti and vandalism response. Our maintenance team has a rapid removal policy. They want to maintain 90% removal within 48 hours, and also apply graffiti resistant coatings to shelters, benches, and trash cans. And then expand our vendor contracts for specialized graffiti removal is also a goal that they have. Number four, community engagement. Um, they want to align trash management with retail centers and use public reporting tools to partner with our customers to report issues because they're out there on the street and can see when a bus stop needs maintenance. And then finally, operational excellence. Our maintenance team has a zonal staffing model where they have quadrants across the area where staff are assigned to do maintenance at those particular stops within their quadrant. And they also have cycles that they follow to ensure regular maintenance of those stops. And then finally, performance and accountability. I mentioned a little bit before, but they are more efficiently developing KPIs that they can actually measure for our maintenance team. So 95% of trash emptied before overflow, 90% of graffiti removed within 48 hours, 85% of complaints closed with 72 hours, 100% of our ADA pads inspected annually, as well as just being transparent with the public, publishing this reporting, and continuous improvement of these processes. So I hope that gives you an overview of our service standards, especially as it relates to amenities, what is out there on the street, and then how we are maintaining those stops and amenities moving forward. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I know folks will have a lot of questions on this. We'll start with Mr. Cutter. Then we'll come to you, Ms. Summers.
Hi there. Thanks for your presentation. I had a couple, hopefully relatively quick questions. Earlier on in the presentation, you mentioned some ridership numbers at the stops, and I was wondering at what rate that was measured. Is that like per hour or what?
Those are average daily boardings.
Average daily boardings. Okay. Great. All right. Secondarily, I'm curious about why real-time data wouldn't be available for this kind of thing. Maybe it's related to the, like, I'm curious how often we're making amenity updates and why we can't, assuming it's tabular data related to a GIS system, that should be pretty automatic to draw in for the map. So could you clarify on that?
Yeah, that's something that we have been asked about and is maybe a future possibility. I know there's a desire for that on our side as well. We get a lot of questions about the system-wide distribution of our amenities, and looking at that over time works really well when you have a snapshot of data that is updated regularly, because bus stop data changes hourly, if not more often, because there's always a stop being closed, being opened, amenities being installed, construction impacts. So it is easier for people to see accurate data that is a snapshot in time when you're wanting to see the system-wide distribution of amenities. I don't know that, that may be a possibility to have real-time information of our amenities at some point in the future. We're just not.
Sure. Thank you. Lastly, this is a small note, but I'm a geographer, and so stuff like this is of interest to me. But the symbology we're using on this dashboard for the stops is a little confusing because it looks like buses on a route. So I don't know if there's a way to improve that symbology to look less like a live like map of the routes, but the little bus
Sure.
icon is pretty one-to-one with what you see in transit apps. So just a small note. And,
yeah, that's helpful feedback.
Yeah, of course. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalo. Ms. Summers, we'll go to you and then others.
Yeah, thank you. I really want to acknowledge the progress in this area. I know that I certainly at various points have been critical in some of these areas with CAT Metro. So I do think that this dashboard is a great great progress and provide some transparency for people who want to learn more about this and really see what's going on. So thank you for developing that and for the teams for developing that. And I definitely understand it was multi-unit across your agency. So really appreciate that and excited to dig into that and talk about that a little bit more. The first question or maybe comment that I had, I think I have kind of 3 comment question areas, is about the levels. So I did understand, okay, level 1 is just a pole, level 2 is maybe a waste receptacle and a bench, and level 3 is including a shelter. But it also strikes me there's levels beyond that. So like, obviously, and there could be various reasons for that, where we have different types of service, like a rapid service, where maybe it's like a cluster stop where, you know, multiple buses are stopping all the time across that block, or, you know, things of that nature. But I do think it would be good to be able to articulate to the public and to the community what, you know, how do we, what is necessitates having a second bench, or having real-time service data, even additional amenities beyond that, and maybe a level 4 or something like that. I think that somebody externally might say, well, why does this one have real-time data and not the other one? Is that ridership? Is it based on the service? How is that determined? And so I think those kind of things would be helpful. And I know that also some of those aspects are more complicated, right? Like getting electricity at a bus. We learned this when we first were doing the rapid lines, as actually getting electricity at a bus shelter can be surprisingly complicated. So I do understand that. So sometimes there may be reasons where there are obstacles to doing it where you would otherwise like to do it. But I think that continuing to articulate like beyond level 3 would be helpful to the community. I guess that's really a comment, but if you want to respond to that, you can.
Yeah, I'd love to offer some more clarity on that. So currently in our service standards and guidelines, we do have a level 4. It's just not classified using ridership. We classify it as transit centers or, transit hubs. And so more clearly classifying and identifying, what a level 4 is something that we would like to update. And we'd also like to better integrate, transit-oriented development, or what you said about, transit clusters where there's more than just one stop. I think that's a really helpful comment and something that we're considering. But just for your knowledge, we have a level 4. It just really corresponds more to our larger facilities, and has a few more of the required amenities that you mentioned. And we also try to keep our service standards somewhat simple, as they are also used for service monitoring, which is that triennial FTA audit that we have to submit information in compliance with Title VI. And so our amenity standards are one of those things that we have to submit. And so we try to keep it somewhat simple to comply with our service monitoring, and also what we have data on to report on. So that's just a little bit more information, but I hear your comment on level 4. I think that's really helpful.
Great, thank you. Okay, so my second of 3 questions is about the removal of amenities. Obviously, we know there's going to be removals. There's service changes where sections are changed or removed, as we just heard, a lot of times to try to improve service. So obviously when we remove a bus stop, we're going to remove amenities. So I don't want to come off as saying that we would never remove amenities. And I mean, I think if, as you mentioned, like emptying waste baskets, and I hate to say oversupplied with waste baskets, because that seems, I don't know. I want to be oversupplied. I want an abundance of waste baskets, but I understand that if your team is struggling to empty them, that's a challenge, perhaps a personnel challenge or staffing challenge. And maybe that's something community advocates can also help you with, advocate for. But what I think is really troubling me about some things that you shared is the removal for misuse. because that does seem to, when there's like less pro-social behavior happening, let's say, and people are vandalizing or misusing, and a amenity gets taken away, that seems like we're punishing everybody for sort of the misdeeds or neglect, of a few. And so that really troubles me. I don't know exactly what I want to say, but I hate to think that people could be impacted by that. So I don't know if that's something you've given thought to. I know that obviously we've been talking a lot in this body for a while about public safety and the community intervention specialists. And I hope that those programs can continue to grow to try to assist with prevention of those types of things. I don't know if you have a comment on that.
Yeah. We want there to be as many amenities as we can get out there and feasibly maintain as possible. We know how important that is to the community and how important it is for us to provide a comfortable, safe experience for customers. So just wanted to reiterate that whenever we're talking about the removal of an amenity, um, that is something that is going to be a last resort, especially if it's like a bench or a shelter and it's has to do with a security challenge or there's like, illegal activity at the stop. I had a conversation with our security team and they clearly outlined some of the steps that they would take before removing the amenity, working with public safety ambassadors, community intervention specialists. We now have our own transit police force, which can really help with some of the patrol needs that we have. And then moving forward with working with, are there tree branches or, fences in the area that are making the design of the stop more I guess easy to misuse, or the environmental design might cause some of what is happening at the stop. And so they work with the property owner to try and understand if they can fix some of the environmental design issues. We work with APD and our partner jurisdictions when possible. So all of those things are things that would happen before there's a severe removal of amenities like a bench or a shelter. When it comes to removal of trash cans, that is something that is more occurring based on misuse or vandalism. There may be a stop that has very low ridership, but is being used by the community as people walk their dogs and then they need to put their dog trash in the waste receptacle. And it becomes very full very quickly and adds to the maintenance needs of our team, but it's not really benefiting our customers. And so those are things that we want to work with Austin Resource Recovery, Keep Austin Beautiful, all of the teams in our community that try to keep litter off the ground and keep our communities clean and safe. We want to work with those partners to ensure that our maintenance team can be successful in maintaining all of the stops throughout the system and all of the amenities, whether that's a bench, a shelter, or a waste receptacle. So I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into how we think about removal of amenities and that we do take it very seriously.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. And I have one real quick one, I think. So this is about public-private partnerships. There was a slide somewhere where you did mention like partnering with community organizations about maintenance of stops. And I guess one of my thoughts was, let us take out the trash. Like, like maybe there are opportunities like that where, obviously downtown Austin and different places have some very, very formalized and robust partnerships where people clean and take out the trash and different things. But I don't necessarily think it needs to be even that big of an operation. I mean, you might find neighborhood associations that are willing to help with some of these tasks to the extent which it's possible. So I would definitely encourage y'all to think about that as a possibility. I would also just say too, I think an underexplored aspect in Austin is thinking about sponsored bus stops. I know that this could bring discomfort sometimes, but I think that like where we are, if we really want to get more amenities at stops, we should look at more sponsorships of our stops, or even maybe ads, but I mean, I think that we all can agree that more is generally better. So if we can do that through engaging partnerships, I think that we should look at that personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I know an adopt a stop program is something that our maintenance team has talked about, and it's something that, there's a desire for that to have more of those partnerships that you're talking about. And with ads, we're keeping our eye on the signage ordinance, and as that progresses its way through council, to see if that will impact our ability to do exactly what you're saying.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. McGehee.
Hey, yeah, thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to ask about the possibility or what y'all are thinking about adding bike parking potentially as an amenity to stops.
Yeah, we do have bike racks as part of our amenities. They're standard, I believe, at either level 3 or level 4. So there's a more complete list outside of just some of the amenities that we hear more about that I spoke about today. We don't often see a lot of use at our bike racks, but it is something that we do consider. And we also have our, bike share service and a whole method of distributing bike share stations as well. So those are both things that we consider.
Do you have any follow-ups? Let's go ahead.
Yeah, I guess you said it's like typical at level 3 or above. Because I think on the 800 stop, so I'm closest to the Franklin Park stop, and there's like a whole neighborhood that I live in. I think it's called McKinney, that it is about like a mile away from both the 7 and the 800 stops. And I feel like there's like nice new bike infrastructure that can get you there. And obviously you can put your bike on the bus, but I feel like, I don't think that there's any bike parking in that area. So just for that line in that area, that would be helpful.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It may be level 4. I apologize. I don't have the chart in front of me, but I think level 4 is where it's required, which is at our, larger transit facilities. And in our standards, we do talk about looking at where there is bike infrastructure and where it would make sense to put a bike rack. I know our bike share planning team is also putting a lot of thought into, bike shelters and the use of those over the next few years. And so bike infrastructure and its proximity to transit is something that we do think about when we place bike racks. It's just not something that we have everywhere throughout our system.
Thank you, Mr. Crossley.
Oh, me?
No, did you have it?
Well, I've got a kind of a comment and a question. This is last month at the request of Commissioner Trevelyan, myself and my 3 homeless outreach deputies met with representatives of the Capital Metro Police, the ambassadors, and the outreach team, and we started our initial talks about working together and trying to focus and coordinate our efforts around the bus stops, primarily in South Austin. That's where we operate. And I just got to thinking after seeing your presentation and seeing that apparently all the data flows to you. A chain of command, if I wanted to report once a week at bus stops in South Austin where you're having incidents, so we could try to figure out where my deputies need to keep a closer eye on, that would be most helpful. And working with y'all's security teams and ambassadors and your outreach people. What would be the appropriate chain of command to do that through?
Yeah, I mean, I could connect you with our security team. I don't know what their protocols are for sharing data like that, but I'm certainly, willing to reach out and see if you guys could partner on that.
Well, I was just wondering, just on the data end, or you're the data cruncher, is it doable to do a report like that? Kind of like, well, homeless persons or an excessive amount of vandalism at these particular stops so we can kind of keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
while
I
we're moving
know.
around.
I definitely know our maintenance team and our security team has that type of data. So it'd just be a matter of, finding the right output and all that.
Okay, well, I'll work on that then. Okay.
Thank you, Constable. Mr. Crossley, will go to you. Order will be Crossley, Brooks, and then Barry.
Okay. I was wondering about ADA and accessibility of stops, and I think we've talked about Houston Metro had the luxury of one of the authors of the ADA was on the board of Houston Metro and developed their program, which I think is very good. And they they're trying to make every single station up meet or exceed ADA standards, and that is meaning sidewalks and ramps and larger bus pads and tactile paving. And I know we have some very good things here, but I don't know the sort of systematic approach here to that. And like, do we have a map? Do we know which stations are accessible and which aren't, and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, one of my favorite facts to share about Cab Metro is that there was a big push in the 2000s after ADA was passed to make our stops fully ADA accessible. So we have, 90 something percent of our stops are ADA accessible by the original, ADA accessible law. That law was recently updated to ProWAG, which is more of a universal accessibility and has a lot to do with the things that you mentioned, like slope, tactile wayfinding, just a lot more attention to detail, which is really great. And so there is a system-wide accessibility transition plan, I think is what it's called, under our system-wide accessibility director, Martin Carisi. He has a plan, and they went out and looked at all of our stops, identified what accessibility needs need to happen at that stop, and then created a prioritized list for them. And so there are stops that are regularly being updated based on their priority for ADA accessibility on a regular basis. Yeah.
Okay, great. And so maybe I will try to find that plan and read it, and just to whatever extent we can support doing the best job on that, I would support that. And then just a little note is the idea of adopt a stop situations. I just would want to encourage that. And like, can we allow creativity in like, can neighborhoods make their stop cool / can businesses invest in stops being cool, and can we have swings? And so just whatever, I think there could be something there and it could be really great. So
I'll let you take that up with our maintenance team. But I would love a swing at a bus stop. So
Thank you, Mr. Crossley. And Mr. Gorse, do you mind if we go in order? So Mr. Brooks, Barry, and then Mr. Gorse. So Brooks, go ahead.
We can't hear him. If you can turn on the
Sir,
mic, please. Sorry.
There.
Can you start from the start?
Yes. I have requested and gotten CAP Metro data on ridership at individual stops. And that breaks down both weekend and weekday information. If anyone wants to know how to do it and what's strange about that data, feel free to talk to me. And let me bring out a much bigger issue. I finally amenities at stops are supposed to help identify the stops for potential riders and for others. They're also supposed to protect riders from the weather. And it's that point that I have problems with. Because most of the time when I use transit and when other people use transit, the exposure to the weather is in the walk there, not when they reach the stop. And if you look, for some of my more frequent trips, only a quarter of the trip is stop accessible or spent near a stop to protect me from the rain or the excessive heat. 3/4 of the time, I'm on my own resources. I always wear a hat, you'll notice. This, I think, is something that Cap Metro ought to think about. Or I don't know of an easy solution right now, but eventually coming up with some way to protect people from the weather when they are on their journey from their house to the bus stop or from their work to the bus stop is a worthwhile goal. It may take a long time before anybody comes up with something that is feasible, but I still think it would be very helpful.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Ms. Martinez, if you want to respond, you can. I know there was more of a comment, so that's fine as well. I defer to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ruben. I totally hear you with the walk to the stop can sometimes be the part where you're feeling the heat or feeling the rain the most. And while we don't have jurisdiction over sidewalks and things like that, walk distance is something that we do consider. So, especially if it's a lower frequency route, walk distance is going to be something that we want it to be a less of a walk for somebody rather than a high frequency route where you're probably going to have to wait less time, but you might have a bit of a longer walk. If you're waiting a longer amount of time, you're more likely to have more of those coverage type stops. And so, but yes, I agree. It's something definitely worth thinking about.
Thank you. Ms. Berry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the information. Very helpful. Some of my questions have already been answered. One of them that was on the map. First of all, is it possible for the map to be shared out? That's like when you had the 3 maps, it was really, and I like try to take myself off camera so you didn't see me like coming all close to the screen. But is it possible to send them individually so we can see them a little bit easierly? That's one ask. But the second part is on that map, it said that there were certain places that qualified for XYZ amenity, but didn't have it. What is the reason for them not having it?
Yeah, so there are a few reasons that a stop might qualify for something but not have that amenity. One of them is that we might have fewer resources, and so we've distributed the shelters that we can, and that one is still on the list, but it is lower priority because it may be in a less low income or minority area based on our prioritization scoring. Another reason is that it may be in a high need area, but the right of way may be very constrained. There are places where we just don't have the physical space to put a shelter, for example. Or we might not have the solar power or the connection to the grid for real-time information or lighting, things like that. So sometimes it's right of way constraint, sometimes it is a challenge with just distributing the resources that we have and stewarding it well.
Okay, thank you. Also kind of along those lines, kind of what Member Brooks was saying. It's hard for me. I don't know if this is just feedback or if it's a question or whatever. To me, it's just like when we are in Texas, in Austin, Texas, like the fact that you have to have more people at a stop to have shelter from the sun just kind of seems, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, and that's a concern for me when you think about like, in general, when you think about the city of Austin, we'll shut down when there's ice, but we don't shut down when there's like a concern for heat, and heat can be just as dangerous, right? That's a little bit of a tangent. But my point is, I do think that there should be shelters at more bus stop, and it shouldn't matter how many, like the amount of people. You shouldn't have 50 people on, daily average in order to have like shelter from the sun. So that's just a point I wanted to make. I know several people have put the dashboards in chats. So people in the room, you guys aren't able to access it as we are. But if possible, I think it's like I was looking for the dashboard and it's not easily found. So I think it's great that you guys have it, but at no place when I'm looking on the Cap Metro website does it say like dashboard or amenities. It's not easy to find. And so it's one of those where it's like, you guys are doing great work. And if you're spending all this time doing it, it would be nice to make people be able to find it and see it to celebrate the work that you guys are doing, because otherwise you're just going to get more and more. I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast for interpreters. I was just trying to make it because I know we're on time.
All good. Take your time.
But yes, I know if we want people to be able to access the great work that is being done and access in all this information that is really helpful. So I know people have sent the dashboard links, but that was my other question is how do I find it easily? So
Yeah, and I didn't do the best job of explaining how to navigate there, so my apologies. But if you go to capmetro.org, it's on our schedule and maps pages, so you can get there through capmetro.org/schedule maps. So SCHED I believe. And then there's a little hyperlink down at the bottom that says stop amenity dashboard. And that's the easiest way to find it. It's kind of with some of our other system-wide maps and things like that.
Okay.
So that's how to get there.
Just friendly feedback if there was something that just said like dashboards, because I noticed this is a different one from another, like there's so many different dashboards that you guys have that might be easy to find. And then my last one's kind of in regards to Constable, what he his comment when do you guys work with like the HSO when it comes to the unhoused community whenever you guys are coming across that? Like how close do you guys work with like the homeless strategy office of the city of Austin for situations like that?
I know our engagement team has been more involved in the partnerships with, HMIS and the unhoused community. Melissa, do you have more information on that?
And Katarina, I have really bad service. So if you can, is it just how do we work with the unhoused community or organizations that work with the unhoused community? Is that your question?
That and just also, do you work with them? Because that was one of the things that I saw as one of the things that was mentioned as a concern. And so I just want to make sure that it's being done in a humane way and as respectful as we can make it.
So yes, we do work with the City of Austin Homeless Strategy Office, as well as directly with organizations that serve the unhoused community through two different approach. One is we have our HMIS program, which we work directly with organizations to build out that program and be able to provide a pass that serves the unhoused so that they have transportation connection to places they need to go. Then with the City of Austin, our emergency team, anytime that there is either a weather situation, whether it's winter or the heat, we partner to be able to either take people to a shelter when it's winter, or again certain times of when the temperature is at a certain level, we just go ahead and offer those rides so that people can have access to it, regardless of being able to pay for the fare. So, and then we also have our public safety department that has community intervention specialists, and they are social workers who also help with connecting people through the other, resources that they might need, like housing, making sure that they're part of the system to be able to get other services.
We have a note from our interpreters for background sound. Our apologies. One of our speakers, I think, is in a public space, so there's just sound around. But thank you, Ms. Ortiz.
Yeah, thank you for the information. I think those were basically my questions. So thank you guys very much.
I appreciate that. One thing I'll just say, and Mr. Gorson, I'll turn it over to you. Ms. Martinez and Mr. Dieter, you can work with Ms. Ortiz to maybe send over some of those, like I think maps and the presentation slides to the committee. And then for the public listening in, we'll make sure that this gets posted to backup on our website. It does take a little while for us to do that because we just need to do some website changes. But we will make sure that it becomes publicly accessible as well. Thank you. Mr. Gorse, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to say something that what Member Crossley was saying earlier made me think of. As a blind person, sometimes when I'm navigating and looking for a bus stop, I mean, this is probably more of an issue with the smaller stops. And I mean, it's not a huge issue for me personally, since I generally know the stops that I'm going to. But if I'm sometimes finding the stop and sometimes finding exactly where the stop is can be a bit of an issue for me since I'm looking for a sign, and sometimes I feel like those can be a little hard to find. If I'm going to a Metro Rapid stop, they're fairly easy to find. There's this whole stop, like there's a certain branding that's associated with them, and with a lot of times with stops that aren't Metro Rapid stops, there's a bench that I can find. But sometimes if I'm looking for a sign, I feel like they're a little bit hard to find. Like maybe there's a pole that they're attached to, and sometimes they can be a little bit tucked away. So I don't know if there's a clear solution to that all of the time. I know that all of the stops are different, so it can be kind of a challenge, but having some kind of standard as far as where the signs are as much as possible, I think can be a good thing. And my other question is kind of, sorry, I just thought of this and I should have asked it earlier, but I'm wondering if the service changes are posted on Cap Metro's website somewhere. It seems like it might be good if they are, so that it might be a good thing to circulate. So I'm wondering if there's somewhere I can find them.
Yeah, well, to your first question, um, Martin has talked with me a little bit about a desire for more tactile wayfinding at stops. We've talked about it more so at larger transit centers because it can be harder to find the stop when there are multiple, nearby. But I think having more standards that make it easier for people to locate themselves at the bus stop, like tactile wayfinding is something that we're considering. And also having a standard for, where the sign goes, I think is a great idea. And I can pass that feedback along. And then Lawrence just posted our service change webpage. It's capmetro.org/service change. So there you can find the service changes for I think the last few, including the June service change and soon the August service change. And there should also be interactive maps and things that can tell you a little bit more information about it. So.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I have a list in mind that I wanted to post it to, so that should be a good resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gorse. Go ahead, Mr. Gonzalez.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'll be very quick, cognizant of the time, but just a couple requests coming out of some of the feedback from a couple of the committee members. One, if you could let us know if the feasibility of adding bike racks to that dashboard, whether that data is available and able to be incorporated, that'd be great. You don't have to do this now, but for future requests. And then sharing the concern about amenity removal with Susan, I think I would love to know if you're tracking the possible disparate impacts of that on the income and racial makeup of communities in which amenities are removed, because I think that's important. There's comorbidities, I'm sure, between income relative to the housing insecurity, for one, being an example, which might induce behavior that some would consider misuse of a stop. What I want to know is, I want data to know how we're measuring the impact of removals and track that over time. So that would be really helpful. And then wondering if there's any kind of notice that amenities are going to be removed, or if it just happens one day to communities. And I think that's most of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that in the past there have been some instances where we have placed, a sign about this amenity or, this stop may be closed, due to some of those things of misuse, but that hasn't been consistent. And I think that that's something that we could, definitely pass along as a desire to better integrate that into our process. And I can definitely ask the team about specific amenity removal data. The main way that we measure, the impacts to low income and minority populations is looking at our system-wide distribution to see how that compares. Like, are we putting more amenities in higher income areas versus low income, and those maps that I showed you. So we do have that kind of distribution data, but if you're wanting more specific amenity removal data, I can definitely request that.
Appreciate it. Other committee members with questions or comments? I have a few. I might just see if I can go through at least some of them. One just related to accessibility. One of the concerns that have been raised to me for some of the new stops along, particularly along Manor, is the slope for the bus pad. So essentially, the contour of the street is sloping, and if the bus pad follows the contour of the street, then the bus pad is sloping. And from an accessibility perspective, one of the concerns that have been raised was essentially, having a slope that might be might not be safe for someone, particularly who's on wheels. So all that said, I guess, what is the standard for what that looks like? Like, I'm assuming there's a standard for what slope is considered accessible and so on. I don't know if you have any information related to that.
There is a standard under PROAG for the appropriate slope to make a concrete pad accessible. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do know that that is something that they considered and they looked at every single stop when they did the system-wide accessibility plan.
I appreciate that. And again, I guess I'll just flag that because I had heard that concern before. So I just wanted to flag that. The other question I sort of had was, looking at the maintenance strategic pillars, and I guess I didn't explicitly see it. It might be in the engagement section, I'm not sure, but sort of like comfort or user experience. How does that sort of fit into the maintenance aspect? And really what I'm wondering is, from the perspective of where a shade or something might exist, it just might not provide the degree of comfort that we would want. How is that decision made when that stop gets an upgrade? And I know that's really hard because in a resource constraint, we're trying to figure out for stops that don't have any, shelter at all versus, so I'm just trying to think though, what is that maintenance pillar that talks about sort of comfort or user experience?
Yeah, I can definitely say that customer requests are something that do factor into our prioritization of when we implement upgrades to a stop. So a stop gets up to 2 points added to its total prioritization score for when a customer says, I know there's a shelter here, but I'd really like it to be this way. We, always factor in customer requests. Right now, we don't have necessarily the resources to always put two shelters or to put in a bigger shelter, but it is something that we consider and we look into when we prioritize amenity upgrades, I guess.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I have other questions, but I can take them offline for sure. Any other questions or thoughts that folks might have? Well, thank you so much for the entire Cap Metro team for their help. I also want to acknowledge Ms. Joseph. I know you had community comment that you wanted to provide, and I think this is a good time. Those should be working perfect. Ma'am, let's make sure we have that and we can pull that up.
Yeah, I don't have it. Can you tell me? Sure, you can do mine. It's YANNIS. Dot. Oh, that's what I'm saying. Dot banks at atptx.org. All right.
Ms. Joseph, you can get started at any point. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. I'm Zenobia Joseph. I just wanted to provide some pictures based on the comments that you made. And my comments, as they always are in the context of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination based on race, color, and national origin. You'll see North Lamar. I want to thank Chair Summers for pointing me to this April 1st, 2025 slide. In the presentation, you'll see the terracotta sidewalks and you'll see the amenities differ as it relates to security and safety. There's a drug overdose that you see on the right, and there's a camera there, but Capital Metro has neglected this area. If you look at the bottom on the right, you'll see the drainage issue, but the city staff actually passed this Club Corona project based on Project Connect being in the plan. However, as you are aware, it stops at Crestview Station, south of US 183. Next slide. And Metropolitan Park is on the left. Can we go back, Giannis? And also the Haka property is on the right. There's no access, and Dottie Watkins refuses to close the mid-block stop. Next slide. I want you to recognize safety is not Capital Metro's #1 priority. This is North Lamar, Yeager Lane, July 25th, 2025. Imam Islam Musad was killed in this vicinity in 2016. Donald Norton was killed. And as you can see, there's a lady in her wheelchair or motorized scooter who actually is scared each time she goes there. You'll see the circle where the bench is that I just showed you, and she may be on her way to that particular spot. Next slide. As it relates to ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, I appreciate the comments. However, as you notice, this is not ADA compliant. You have to stand in the ditch in order to push the button, same area. But North Lamar was ranked #1 back on May 15th, 2020, when the city actually had their $720 million mobility bond, but yet they keep running out of money. Next slide. I want you to see the juxtaposition of white versus minority. On the right, you'll see where the trash can receptacle was removed from the HEB over on Wells Branch. On the left, that's HEB. Hancock, you'll see that they have extra amenities there, but that Route 345 is being eliminated due to low ridership. And the consultant, Russ Chisholm, told them in 2016 not to create Route 345. You'll see up at the top, the quote is from Roberto Gonzalez, 2013, where the ridership is highest outside of transit centers over at HEBs and the Walmarts, but they eliminated this space right here. Next slide. I want you to see that you've been listening to falsehoods from the staff. Capital Metro has prioritized, and I'm going slow just because of your translator, because I could have speeded through, but I'll rapidly just show you the pictures. This is Hyde Park, the old bench, the green one. It's been there for years. On the right, Chair Summers asked about how do you decide where to put two amenities? There are two sets of benches over here, and you'll see, even though you've been told about level one, this is the same backside of Hancock, and it's next to single-family homes, but it has a trash can receptacle, it has the shelter and a bench too. Next slide. I just want you to see Hyde Park compared to the person sitting on the ground. Again, the shelter was removed. And the issue at hand is actually the homeless. There's an encampment back there. And for those of you familiar with the area, this is actually in Capital Metro service area, and it's also the City of Austin jurisdiction. Next slide. Again, this is the Hancock, it's the golf course. You'll see two sets of benches there. University of Texas at Austin students use that stop. And up above, you'll see on the right where this is next to Little Walnut Creek Library Branch. There used to be 4 benches there, 2 green with the back, and then they took the 2 flat ones in the back off. When they finally did the sidewalk, they took the 2 green ones, and now there's only 1 for people going to HEB Runberg. So most of the time people stand, and there's a little encampment there. Next slide. I just want to show you the network. I won't spend much time on this. I just want you to see the reduction is northeast of US 183, and the map on the left was created in 2016, southwest and central Austin. And so there's still been no improvements to 1-seat rides in northeast Austin. Next slide. Lastly, as it related to the lighting, I just want you to see dark North Lamar, but yet the city staff says that they have a view of equity, and that's the racial lens. And I think that's the last slide, Giannis. Well, okay, it ends with Project Connect. So someone mentioned Route 18 and the changes. I just want you to see that Project Connect is advertised on that bus. It could have gone across US 183 and stopped at Craigwood, where blacks are waiting 60 minutes for the bus, 10 times longer than whites. They are now selling that they are doing something to improve that area. I want you to recognize, my last comment, this is Runberg up above. And so there needs to be something done as it relates to the infrastructure. There's a $36 million contract from Muniz, but they don't put signage, they don't put any kind of the markings, they don't put any kind of shared use paths on Runberg, North Lamar. And so even though they have the monies, the contractor, I suppose, is getting his return on investment by not investing in North Lamar, and we all pay taxes. So you should not be able to look at the sidewalk and see which side of town or which side of the city you're on. But those are my comments, and I'm as frustrated as some of the comments that were made earlier. And there's a maxim, I'll just close with this, from Anthony Fox when he was the Secretary of Transportation. It's called DAD, Decide, Advocate, and Defend, and do it all before the public's involved. And that is what you are seeing, that methodology where Capital Metro has determined what they want you to believe, and they defend it with the data, but then really the pictures tell a different story. I thank you for allowing me to be extensive. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph.
You're welcome.
Committee members, I'll move to some of our additional items. Ms. Berry, I'm sorry, were you saying something?
No, I saw member Crossley was raising their hand. So I was just saying, like,
Crossley, I'm sorry
I know,
if you were raising
I know
your
you
hand.
can't see me or hear me, but I was like, do you have a question? Sorry.
Mr. Crossley, please go ahead.
Well, we maybe need to hurry up. I just don't understand are the rules that we are not allowed to comment on public comment because it wasn't on the agenda.
You can, just it cannot be a conversation because we wouldn't be posted for it. So if you want to make a quick comment, you can, but it cannot be a conversation.
Okay, well, just a quick comment. The North Lamar from 183 to I-35 is a TxDOT facility, and the lack of sidewalks and safe crossings on that piece of roadway is one of the most horrendous problems in our whole region. And it's an inequitable thing, and it's a violation of Title VI, but it's not a city facility. And I also advocate for TxDOT to do a better job on that facility.
Thank you, Mr. Crossley. Committee members, just to be sort of respectful of people's time, what I'm thinking of in terms of next things is there are two items, and I can actually, they're not very long. I'll just talk about them. One is the budget process discussion. So just to let you all know, if this body wants to make any recommendations regarding budget to Cap Metro, ATP, or the city of Austin, it would be best for us to do it by our next meeting. In the past, essentially, we've had committee members who wanted to make recommendations. They've worked, with each other or brought something forth. If that is the case, please send something to staff. I'll make sure it's on the agenda. So just keep us posted. Happy to post it. It's not a requirement for us to make recommendations regarding the budget, but I know some of them always come up regardless.
Thank you. I strongly recommend that anybody making comments on one of three organizations' budgets understand or thoroughly go over their budgeting process first. In particular, Cap Metro has a very different budgeting process than the city of Austin. I think we ought to deeply understand Austin Transit Partnership's budget process, since if we don't do it, no one else will.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. And if folks want, we can have a presentation and we've done that again this time. We've run out of timing in terms of stacking it all. But if folks want a presentation from a particular staff team, we can definitely put it on the April agenda as well. Again, please do send out the request to staff and we'll make that happen. The other thing I just wanted to share was in terms of the working group appointments, I know we had brought this up before. Is there anyone right now who already knows that they would like to join a working group? Mr. Gonzalez, please go ahead. Mr. Handel, go ahead. Both of you, sir.
Yeah, the anti-displacement one is my most interested. I don't know what the spots are like on the others, but if I can be on that one, I'll be happy.
Just let me know for now, and then I'll let you know from a process perspective what we want to do.
Let's do that one in governance.
Governance, okay. Mr. Handel.
I was interested in the ETOD one and the light rail one, and the anti-displacement ones were the three I was looking at, but I kind of came up with that not knowing what openings there are, so it's just kind of a
sure
expressing interest.
I'm so for the, I'm sorry, just taking a note, the light rail one, we can definitely do it. For the TOD one, we currently do not have a spot on there. So I would honestly, what I would ask is for the folks who are currently serving on it, if somebody wants to roll off, please let us know. If not, that's fine as well, Mr. Handel. When a spot clears up, we can do that. For the anti-displacement one, Ms. Summers, you're not technically on it.
I've been functioning on it for years, haven't I?
Yes, because we've kind of volunteered you to do it. Do you want to?
If there's a spot, I'm happy to be on it. I know I'm like on every working group, but this is like, it's fine. This is my thing. So, but not if it would prevent somebody else who wanted to.
Perfect. So in that case, actually, we're going to put Mr. Handel on there. And if something comes up available later, we'll definitely have that conversation. Any other, yes, Mr.
If there's another spot for light rail, I'm interested in it, but if there's not, I prefer anti-displacement.
Light rail, Mr. Handel has the last one.
Okay.
My apologies. I can mention it right now. I'm looking. Okay. We do not have any more spots on the anti-displacement one. We have 3 more spots available on the governance one. And we have 1 spot available on the Cap Metro Services and Infrastructure one. Any other committee members who want to be on a particular working group? And again, no rush. You can think about it. We'll keep this on the agenda for, let's say, at least 1 or 2 more meetings. If somebody wants, we can do it. We can also swap people out.
I just want to reiterate that if people are interested, I can happily, I'm on a lot of things, so I can happily swap out. We can talk about that more too.
And actually, just also a reminder, folks, so the entire point is we can only talk to meet subquorum, you can talk to 5 people. If you want to talk to someone about rolling off, you can reach out to them directly as well. So if you feel like someone who might be willing to do it, feel free to do that. Having said that, what I'm going to go ahead right now and do is I'm making a motion to add Committee Member Gonzalez, Committee Member Handel to the Anti-Displacement Working Group, Committee Member Gonzalez to the Governance Working Group. I'm going to pause my own motion and ask Ms. Summers, would you be willing to serve on the governance work? That does officially put you on all.
I know the answer, which is yes.
Yay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to put you on there for now. And that is where we have the most space as well. So I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat my motion. Anti-Displacement Working Group, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Handel. Governance Working Group, Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Summers. Light Trail Design Working Group, Mr. Handel. That's my motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
Seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Motion. Any discussion on the motion?
So just to be clear, that means Vice Chair Summers is off of anti-displacement. Does that need to be included, or she wasn't really technically on it, so we don't need to say anything?
She was never technically on it. We've been telling her and pulling her.
Well, it's been lovely having you. Okay, no discussion needed.
Thank you for helping fill that space.
Thank you.
Once we had some availability. Okay, in that case, Mr. Crossley, please go ahead.
I think I'm on too many, so I would be happy to drop off light rail if that makes space. But I would like to stay on anti-displacement and ETOD. I'd also be happy to get off anti-displacement, but I would be happy to continue serving there.
Mr. Crossley, am I hearing that you are open then to getting off the light rail design one?
Yeah, but it makes most sense to get off the light rail one because I don't know that I've done much there.
I appreciate that. Mr. Gonzalez, you wanted to be on it.
Sure, if there's room, I'll take it.
Since a motion has been made, I'm going to go ahead and make an amendment to my motion. This is we'll vote on it in category. My amendment to the base motion is to remove Mr. Crossley from the light rail design working group and add Mr. Gonzalez to it. Do I have a second on that? Ms.
Second.
Berry, yep. Oh, well, I have Ms. Berry. I'll recognize you first. This is a vote on the amendment itself to swap out in the base motion, Mr. Crossley for Mr. Gonzalez. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. That takes us to the base motion, which is now Gonzalez Handel on anti-displacement, Gonzalez Summers on governance, Handel Gonzalez on light rail design, and Crossley comes off. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I know we're a little over time. We can skip some of our working group updates, but I do want to offer an opportunity for our staff to provide any updates. I see we do not have any updates from the city of Austin. Nothing from Cap Metro and ADP. Do we have anything we wish to share? Okay, well, that moves us through that very fast. Thank you, staff. Future meetings and agenda items, any requests for, yes.
Since it was discussed today, I thought it might be useful to have, if possible, and I don't think it's time sensitive, it could be months from now or whenever they're ready, to have the CAT Metro team present to us about the accessibility transition plan. I don't think we've had that before.
No, and I remember Mr. Craddy has come and presented to us a few years ago, so it would be great to hear from that team for sure. Any other future agenda items, Mr. Brooks?
We need to get a financial plan update for the at least the light rail. We have the world's leading expert in-house here.
I appreciate that. We'll definitely talk to Mr. Rivera and see if we can have him. Any other items? Not hearing any, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting of the CAC at 7:06 p.m. Thank you all very much.
Good seeing everyone. Bye.